Hey everybody, John Finn, Church Without Walls International, CWOWI.org. Thanks for joining us today. We're a house church network, and you'll find that we're all about the discipleship process. So I want to say this right up front that if you are watching this on April 1st, on April 4th at 1 p.m. Central Time, I'll be doing a live web conference using our Zoom app, our Zoom company for our web meetings. We have these regularly and more so now as of this recording. We're on lockdown. The world is on lockdown for the pandemic. And so if you want to join us to that live web meeting at 1 o'clock, that is 1 p.m. Central Time US, go to our website, cwowi.org, and you'll find the link to do that. You can register there. All right, today talking about judgment at the house of God. If you'll recall, some of you have been with us, many hundreds have been with us in the various Zoom meetings that we've had. And I shared about a December 1st visitation that I had with the Lord. The Lord generally comes and visits me in the January, February, March timeframe to talk to me about the year, but he came in December this year, which was a bit of a surprise. And he spoke to me about a sickness, among other things, economic difficulty and different things of that nature. But he spoke specifically about sickness, and as I said, I've shared this before, and how he said, come late spring, and it would start to diminish come late spring and summer. And so this was not unexpected to us, although we didn't understand the full volume of it, the full ramifications of it, having never experienced anything like this before. But one of the things I asked him about also, because I'd been searching for months about 1 Peter 4:17. 1 Peter 4:17 says that now if judgment begins at the house of God, this is King James Version, if judgment begins at the house of God, and we can scarcely be saved, then what about those who don't even yet know him? And so, I dug into that a little bit. And if you read the Greek, it's a little easier to understand than the King James Version. And in the Greek, it says, if judgment begins from the house of God, or with the house of God, it's actually from in the Greek. Judgment begins from the house of God. And so what that means is we are the first among all the peoples of the earth. We who are believers are the first to judge ourselves, to be asked to judge ourselves. And you have to understand the way this works. And I'm going to speak in more detail about this at our Zoom meeting on Saturday. But when you chose to believe in Jesus, when you met him and you found out he's more than just a philosophy, he's more than just something you say I believe in, or it's it's more than culture, and you was like, wow, he's real and he makes a difference. When you chose that and you made that choice and you were transformed, born again in your spirit, man, you found your purpose in life. You found life. And found out he's real and alive and valid and in this day and age, you judged yourself. At that moment, you judged yourself. No matter whether you prayed the 4 spiritual laws that were so popular back in the 1970s, when I was first born again, or something else, or just cried out and say, help God. Whatever the case was, when you gave your heart to the Lord, you judged yourself. You found the remedy for your situation, for your sin, for your purpose in life. Whatever the case is, that you found that, you judged yourself and you said, I want to be right with God. Now, once you do that, then you don't experience the judgment like a heaven or hell judgment, because you've already judged yourself. There's no white throne judgment, so to speak, for you, because you've already judged yourself. There's only the judgment seat of Christ, and he will just take it from the moment you were born again to standing before him and ask, what have you done with what I've given you? So it's not a heaven or hell type of thing, because you've already judged yourself. And every time that you recognize that you feel that conviction of the Spirit, and you know that you've sinned, or you've done something that grieves your spirit, or you just know you did something wrong, and when you say, Lord, forgive me, when you confess your sin, then that is also you judging yourself. And having judged yourself, then that's wiped clean, and you won't stand before the Lord and be responsible for that, because you have judged yourself. And our goal, of course, is to judge ourselves as it happens, to hopefully stay out of sin in general. But when it happens, to say, "Oh, Father, forgive me. I judge myself." And that's why one of my favorite sayings ever since I was a teenager, I think, was "Race to the judgment, run to the light." I can't say that I heard it. It's been so much in me. I don't know that I heard it, read it, or if it just came up out of my spirit. Race to the judgment, run to the light. I want to come to the light. I want to judge myself. I race to the judgment. I say, Father, judge me, but let me judge myself. Give me the opportunity to judge myself. Judge me by showing me what I need to work on. And so when we're talking now in the context of this pandemic, and everybody's on lockdown, or most countries are on lockdown. The last I read, this virus is in 199 countries. Which is amazing, and more in most countries it's like a lockdown. It's almost like a stay-at-home type of self-quarantining as it peaks here, as it will peak in April, and anyway, so we judge ourselves, and you think, okay, do I really need the smoke machine in the so-called worship of the auditorium, or are you developing your own worship? Are you growing in Christian character? 2 Peter chapter 1. Verse 5 says, giving all diligence, add to your faith moral excellence. That's the Greek right there in 2 Peter chapter 1, chapter 1, verse 5. So moral excellence, think about this while you're on lockdown. Are you adding to moral excellence? Is that part of your life? Are you judging yourself? Are there things where you need to, are there things that you shouldn't be watching on TV, on the computer? Things you shouldn't be reading, watching, talking about, social media, whatever the case is. Judge yourself. If it's not love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, patience, meekness, kindness, the fruit of the Spirit from Galatians 5, verses 22 through 25, then we judge ourselves on those things which do not agree with the fruit of the Spirit and godlike character. Now, does that mean you can't have any fun or anything else? No, of course not. Jesus was aware of what was going on with his surroundings. He was aware of the politics, etc., etc. But in terms of Christian character, we have to look at what the Lord is asking of us, what he's looking for at his return. And you'll recall from Matthew chapter 25 that what he's looking for, what he mentions in verses 34 through 36, is this: a body where it says, I was naked, I was hungry, I was thirsty, I was a visitor, I was sick and in prison, and you fed me, clothed me, watered me, visited me, took me in. And he said, that's the body right there. That's the body of Christ. That's a very down-home, neighborhood-based type of faith. Family, friends, neighbors, co-workers, making sure everybody has enough food, clothing, water, a stranger you took in, and visited the sick and in prison. That's a character. That's a character that is a Christian character that is not focused on self, but is focused on others. So judgment begins at the house of God. Judgment flows from the house of God. We are the first to judge ourselves. That's what 1 Peter 4:17 is talking about. In the context of Peter, he was talking about persecution, that they were also being persecuted. And he was saying, make sure your heart is right. That, if you suffer wrong because you did wrong, then you don't have any reward. But if you suffer just for being a Christian, suffer persecution, then you've got reward with God. But the point is that you judge yourself so that nobody has anything against you except for the fact that you walk with the Lord. And so you judge yourself in that, and judgment flows from. So if you start seeing judgment, the Lord asking what he told me in December of 2019, he's asking the body of Christ to judge itself. If you see that happening in the body of Christ, then you have to realize that there's going to be a trickle down later for those who don't know him. So body of Christ, get with the program. Get with what the Spirit of God is saying and judge yourself of those things. It's not for me or anybody else to say, these are what you need to do. It's not an external law saying you've got to measure up to that. It's not false religion or anything like that. This is an internal thing. And it's always very subtle, and it's always very quiet, and it's always very personal, where the Lord just deals with us on one or two things, saying, just judge yourself on this. Grow up in this area. That's the kind of thing we're talking about. And then you can examine your relationships and your character beyond that. All right, hope this has been a blessing to you. I'll let you go. Again, I invite you to our Zoom web conference Saturday, April 4th, if you're watching this in the week. And that's at 1 p.m. And also stay tuned at our website because we do these things quite frequently. So cwowi.org. You can also sign up for my weekly thoughts, which is a weekly email that comes out every Friday in the U.S. Short teaching every single Friday, my e-newsletter, etc., etc. So you'll find a lot of resources, videos, lots of material to read, videos, etc. on our website. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.